Welcome to the OpenJ9 community call for April 12th. I'll start by asking if anyone has anything urgent they want to discuss right away. Otherwise, we'll keep going through the regular agenda. As far as I know, we don't have any lightning talks scheduled for today. Let's take a look at the new issues. So there's a problem with the constant pool reported yesterday. So I pinged Toby on that one. Looks like it's likely a VM issue, nothing new. Strangely, it works with shared classes on, but not with shared classes off. Anyways, we'll have to take a look at that one. Are there any other user issues anyone wants to discuss? So for 031, we did find a blocker. And the latest information is that we've disabled an optimization in the JIT that seems to work around the problem. Now we have to decide if we want to put that workaround into the release. As far as I know, we don't have a PR open yet, unless it was opened a very short time ago. So we'll be looking for that workaround and getting it into possibly getting it into our release streams while we continue investigation into why the workaround had, or why the optimization had to be disabled. We're so late now in the 031 release cycle. 1801 is going to be available next Tuesday. I think we should just skip 031 and go ahead with 032 next week. So let's look at the 032 milestone. So in the 032 milestone, there's a user raised problem, which we have a fix for. My understanding is the fix is pretty low risk, and I expect we're going to want to put that in. But I'm not sure we have the right people on the call today to discuss it. Does anybody have information about that? We have our test, our new test that we've marked as a blocker, but it's not a new failure, probably not a new problem. We have a security 4 issue we might need to defer. We have a Renaissance crash in JNI code. Apparently, there's also problems with this test suite on Hotspot, and we're running an older version. So I think LAN has volunteered to run a newer version of that test and see if we get better results. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the issues in the 032 milestone plan? There is one other issue that we're investigating that's not in this milestone plan. Might be in the release 33 milestone plan at the moment, which is support for OpenSSL version 3. There's some new OSs coming out next week and next month that only come with OpenSSL 3 by default. If OpenJ9 doesn't support it, there's going to be very poor cryptography performance. So we've got a PR open and we're running tests to see if we can support OpenSSL 3 quickly and get that into the 032 release. Okay, well, if anybody doesn't have any comments about 31 or 32, we'll continue on. So is there anyone who wants to give an update about Adopt? Not sure we have the right people on the call.
Well, we had adopt marketplace walkthrough on Monday. Basically, we talked about the Aqua lead verification and basically go through the process. And we're working on to exclude the unstable test in the extended.openjdk at this point. Oh, and then also for Aqua test repo, we just branched for 0.9.0 release. And so for any exclude that we're going to that repo, we need to double deliver. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and then because CanOSP's project is last presentation, final presentation was yesterday. So the term is ended.
So all the excludes, you're expecting to get those in place by next Tuesday?
I was hoping, yeah, I was hoping to get it in.
And is there any requirement to run with the test release branch if the headstream is still working?
Well, it's for the CE GA version, right? So for the milestone build, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it doesn't really matter for GA either if the headstream is still in good shape, if nobody's released a newer test material that doesn't work on the GA.
Right. The release branch is going to be pointing to the extension repo. So I guess you can still use master. It should be fine. But for Aqua Vid verification, it is required to use Aqua test release repo.
Okay, so we should use that version for all the release testing.
Yes.
Week. Let's see, Adam, do you have any update on our machines?
Not really. The Artifactory disk is still creeping up, so I gotta keep an eye on that.
It seems to bounce up and down a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
I think I've seen it go up to 93 or so, but it goes back down to the high 80s, so I'm not seeing a problem so far. Any outlook for the Windows machines?
No, but I do want to try some cycles to this iteration.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think I got the gist.
Right. Yeah. I don't have an outlook, but I want to try and get it to it this station at least. So we'll see.
So if we patch those two things together, maybe we can get all the words. All right. CMake. Devin, anything to report on CMake?
I think the cross-compile support is all good now. So I've opened an issue just with the request for comments about enabling CMake by default to see if anyone has any issues before actually flipping the switch.
So that only affects RISC-V?
Yeah, well, I mean, technically anywhere where anyone is running cross-compile, but that's the only one that we are running that's cross-compile.
What about Windows? I thought Windows used some cross-compile.
Yes. So technically, CMake the way we have it architected is Windows makes CMake think it's in cross-compile, but that's not covered under this case. This is an actual cross-compile case.
Okay. So we're not expecting anything to change for OpenJ9 builds when we make the switch for the
correct.
regular platforms that we build?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Do we have Marius? Let's see Marius. So there should be another microchip meeting on April 21st. Toby, do you have anything to say about CRIU?
So from the development perspective, not much new came in last week, although we were able to do the first EA release, thanks to the infra team. So that went out. We're able to now do like full PR build testing after lines changes. So we're going to compile and a sanity test as well. And I believe your nightly builds enabled as of last night. And that's it for the update.
Are those internal or external builds?
External.
Okay, I thought I saw something in the list, but I didn't have a chance to really look at it. I didn't see any failures, so that's good.
Yeah.
So what, we're waiting for feedback on the early access release, or did we get some feedback already? Or
Yeah, so the Liberty team has already started using it. They're so far so good. Given the build is based on our Marsh changes, there are a few more things that they would like to test, mostly security changes that are still being reviewed right now. So we'll probably get more feedback in the next April EA release.
so I guess that would be not 032 based, because not all the CRIU changes are in 032. Could it be headstream again, just the latest?
Yeah, it'll just be the latest.
Anything else, or anybody have questions about CRIU? I don't see Jack. Does anybody have anything to say about Project Loom?
So I believe Jack is close to getting the Loom early access repo functional with J9. There are a lot of changes to Javelin thread and thread group, so it's been a battle just getting it to compile. So I think he's very close to getting that set up. The next step will be to look at the internal capabilities that we need to support. So we already know that there are a bunch of natives in virtual thread that we need to implement. So we'll just be ensuring that the list we have is the same, as there've been a lot of changes over the last year to that end. I believe Jason also made some changes to Javelin thread to minimize the size of the delta between the version we have in the extensions repo and the OpenJDK version, just to make merging new changes easier.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's gone in, as far as I know. Cheng, updates for Panama?
In terms of optical Linux PPC 6480, I think it's already functioning, works, except the running crash, probably related to Jet. So I already opened internal issues to get for Jet to investigate. And then that's just get started working on the X PPC 64. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thanks. For the Mac AR64M1, we're going to put out an early access build with 032. There are some known issues going into the release notes that are, well, they're already in the release notes. We'll keep working on that towards a production ready release in the future. Shared library rename, I haven't seen anything, so I assume that's still the backlog and we'll proceed.
Yeah, I haven't had any time to devote to that lately.
And then there's the OpenJDK method handles in 8 and 17. We do not have Daryl or Dan today. Maybe Babneet, you could give us a short update of where we are, and we can defer some discussion until Dan and Daryl are on, hopefully next week.
Okay. So last week, I think some of the questions asked at the end of the discussion were, what are the implementation differences for OpenJDK method handles between 8, 11, and 17 onwards? And the other question was, what are the perf and retuning costs as we backport it to 8? So for the first question, I think via code inspection, I found that the implementation across 8, 11, and 17 is almost identical in terms of native and Java structures and the high-level design. The implementation has evolved, so there are small behavioral differences as we move across JDK versions. We find how much time it will take to account for these differences. For JDK 11, there are approximately 7 GitHub issues. I think I've shared this in the previous calls. For JDK 8, the picture was unclear since we were unable to build the JDK with OpenJDK method handles enabled. But last week, I think I made a lot of progress on JDK 8. I was able to build and run tests. And I think now I'm down to 5 functional failures. So it doesn't look like it will take a lot of effort to backport to 8 and 11. If I were to revise the timeline, I would say I could add functional support for 8 and 11 by the end of summer or even earlier, depending on how many new failures show up as the existing known ones are resolved. The second question regarding perf and retuning as we backport OpenJDK method handles to 8. JDK 17 with OpenJDK method handle is at par with 11 with OpenJ9 method handles. And I've been told that the perf work which was done and which is being pursued for OpenJDK method handles in 17 is general improvements, which should automatically apply to all JDK versions. So since we are already at par, if we just add functional support in 8 and 11, we should be able to get similar performance to OpenJ9 method handles. But we will need to verify this assumption before enabling OpenJDK method handles in 8 and 11. But as the ongoing perf work for 17 and onwards finishes, I think it should automatically apply to 8 and 11. And at the end, the perf improvement should be far better than OpenJ9 out of the box. So we believe that the perf retuning cost should be pretty low, or we may not need to do any perf retuning with OpenJDK method handles in 8 or 11. So I think this is an update. And back to you, Peter.
Yeah, if you could update the minutes with some of that information, that'd be great.
Yep.
The performance that you're talking about, when you say we're at par, is that just for throughput, or does that also include footprint?
I think it's for both, but I think it will be better if a JIT member confirms it, either Nazim or Daryl, so I can add it as a confirmatory point for next week.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it sounds pretty promising. Does anybody have questions or comments?
Just want to say thanks for the update. That's really good.
Yep.
Sounds like you made a lot of progress. That's good.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any other business?
I have one shameless, well, maybe a little bit shameful, plug to the Omar Architecture meeting, which is happening this Thursday at 2 p.m. EDT. I'll be presenting on JIT Builder 2, the latest update of what's been happening with that library. Just something that I've been kind of working on in my spare cycles when I have them. So I just wanted to make people aware of it. You're more than welcome to attend that meeting and hear about it, or there's going to be, it'll be recorded and available for people to watch offline if they want to too.
Sounds great. So summary, I haven't heard any objections to canceling the 031 release. So right now we're going to proceed with the assumption that we're not going to do a 031 release, and we're going to do a 032 release starting next week. And if there's nothing else, we can end the call. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.